started, I'm going to walk you guys through the materials, and we're also going to take some measurements that we will be needing for the tutorial. Just for the materials, I am using this 2 yarn. It's actually from 2 different brands, but I have them lying around, and I just thought that's honestly what inspired the color choice. So I just thought I should make something with them. You can obviously choose whatever color you want to go for, and I know black is a little bit difficult to work with, but I'm going to just make sure I explain this well so you guys don't get lost along the way. And if you have any questions, just feel free to ask me as well. So I will be using these two. I'll be combining these two. At the end of the video, I'll let you guys know exactly how much I used. Just so you know, it's the same acrylic yarn. Both of them are acrylic, and one is actually 100 gram. The only thing is it's from 2 different brands, but it's the same yarn. And for the crochet hook, I will be using a 3mm for the entire project. And you also be needing some scissors because we are going to be switching back and forth with this color. So you need some scissors to cut off the yarn to attach the new yarn as well. What else will you be needing? Measurement tape, because I'm going to show you guys how to get the measurements done in the next clip. And honestly, that's it. It's super easy. The panel is worked in 5 different panels. We have front, back, edging at the very bottom, and then we have the sleeve. The sleeve is actually going to be worked on the panel, so you don't have to stress about attaching it at the end of the day. I might actually make the edging and then attach it after, but I don't know, we'll see, whatever. But there are 2 different methods you can use for both of the sleeve and for the edging at the very bottom. So then the most important measurement for this sweater is going to be your bust. And this is obviously different depending on the fitting you're going for. If you want a loose fitting, then I'll suggest you add more measurement to this. And if you want a fitted, then obviously take the exact measurement. And if you want it extra fit, then you probably have to reduce some amounts, which I don't think anybody would want to go for. So you're going to grab the tape and just take your bust measurement. And I usually just like to ensure that the measurement tape falls right above my nipple area, because then that's the actual bust. And whatever amount you get on this measurement, you are going to be dividing that amount by 2. The reason is because we are going to work on the front and the back panel separately. So dividing this by 2, make sure you have one back panel and one front panel. When you connect the 2 together, you're going to have your exact measurement. So mine is 39 inches. Whatever amount I decide to make, I'm just going to add at least maybe 5 inches to it, and then I'm going to divide that into 2. So the next part of this pattern will be the length, and the length is going to be 2 different lengths because of the design itself. So you're going to grab your tape and start from your shoulders, and right from your shoulders you're going to just make your way down. And I also just like to make sure my tape is actually on top of my boobs and not at the side, because then I get the full length measurement. And I usually, for this pattern, I'm just going to stop right underneath my bust area, right under my bust, and that will be 17. But instead of moving the tape, I'm going to leave the tape right under my bust. Make sure you mark the number so you know exactly, and from there you're going to take the rest of the measurements that you want. So let's say, for example, mine is going to be 24 inches. So right under my bust up until my 24 inches is going to be 17 to 24. So right now you know you have 2 length measurements. You have the one from your shoulders to your underbust, and you will have the one from your underbust to your desired sweater length, because again the length wise is worked in 2 different panels. Hope you guys understand. The next one you're going to need is the armpit hole, and that is basically how wide and how much gap you want around your arm. And I would suggest you do this a little bit wider than usual, because that's what the pattern is about. So again, depending on what your measurement is, you're going to take the fitted measurement around the armpit, making sure you can lift your arm and you can move this freely. And I'll suggest you add few inches to it, maybe 4 inches to it. So to get started, you're going to start with the measurement. The first measurement you did take lengthwise. Remember, I did say we are going to need 2 different measurements, which is from your shoulder to your underbust and from your underbust to your desired length. So you're going to grab the shoulder to your underbust measurement, and you're going to start with that. Get started, you're just going to make a slip knot and chain a chain that is as long as that measurement. So in my case, mine is going to be 12 inches. I'm just going to make a chain that is 12 inches long. And just so you know, I'm using the 3mm for this. So in my case, I chained a total of 50 chains, and I usually just like to chain an extra one, which is going to be my turning chain. From here on, we are going to go into the chain with after crochet stitches, and to do that, you're going to yarn over, go into the second chain, and from there you're going to grab the yarn, pull through. At this point, you should have 3 loops. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and that is how you work after crochet stitch. And you're just going to yarn over and repeat 1 after crochet into the next chain, yarn over, repeat 1 after crochet into the next chain, and continue to repeat 1 after crochet until you get to the very end of the row. And yours might be longer or even shorter than mine, so just ignore that and just stick to the measurements that you did take at the very beginning. So you want to make sure you repeat 1 after crochet until you get to the very end of the row. You do not want to skip any chain, because if you do, you will be reducing the length of your sweater, and I'm sure you don't want to do that. So for the next row, you're going to chain 1 and turn, and this time around we are still going to work after crochet stitches, but we are going to work after crochet into the back loop. And if you look at each stitch, you have a front loop, which is this, and you have a back loop which is at the back. So you usually have 2 loops. We are going to go into the back loop of each stitch. So you're going to chain 1 yarn over, go into the back loop of the very first stitch. You're going to grab the yarn, pull through. You should have 3 loops. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of the loops. Again, you're going to yarn over, go into the back loop of the next stitch. You're going to grab the yarn and pull through. You should have 3 loops. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of the loops. Lastly, you're going to yarn over, go into the next stitch into the back loop, grab the yarn and pull through. And when you have 3 loops, you're going to yarn over and you pull through all 3 loops just the same way you've been doing. And repeat this until you get to the end of row 2. And this is what you should have after your second row. You are going to repeat the same thing for row 3, which is chain 1 and turn, and into the back loop of the very first stitch you're going to yarn over and insert 1 after crochet, into the next yarn over and insert another after crochet, and insert 1 after crochet in each stitch from the previous row to complete row 3. So guys, this is what you're going to repeat with your after crochet stitches into every stitch. Make sure you're not skipping any stitch like I mentioned, because the moment you do, you are going to decrease the length, which means your sweater is going to eventually become smaller. So you're going to repeat this. When it comes to color changing, I did change my color after every 10 rows, but this is definitely optional, because along the way I do have some set of color that was 5 and another one that's 15, which I will explain to you guys why I did switch. But if you want to make the same exact pattern, I would suggest you do the 10 rows, because if you want to do any other set, I don't know how I can explain how many rows you need to do. So I'm just going to repeat row 3 until I have a total of 10 rows, and I'm going to come back and show you guys how I usually change my colors, because we will be switching to the next yarn. Right here, coming to my last row on the first yarn, because I did 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You're going to just, right before you finish your last stitch, you can see that I have 3 loops on there. I'm just going to go ahead and cut off my yarn. You don't want to cut that too short, but at the same time not too long, because you will be wasting the yarn. So now you're going to grab your second color. In my case, it is this black color. So I'm just going to grab this, and with the 3 loops, I'm just going to grab the yarn, wrap around the crochet hook, and I'm just going to pull. And right there, I just finished my last stitch, and now I have my new yarn on the crochet hook. So from here on, you're going to the shorter end of the new yarn, you're going to drop, you're going to grab the one that is attached to your yarn, and you're going to chain one with your working yarn. And from here, you're going to turn. I like to sew in my loose ends as I go, and I'm going to show you guys how I do that. So right after, I usually just like to pull the two strings of this yarn just to make sure it's secure. And I'm going to grab this previous yarn color and pass this underneath, because I'm going to go right above that yarn with my next few stitches. So I already chained one. What I'm going to do is going to yarn over, go into the back loop of the very first stitch, and because I want to go above this loose end with my stitch, I'm just going to make sure the crochet hook goes underneath that loose end. From there on, I'm going to grab my working yarn, pull through. I have 3 loops. I'm going to yarn over and pull through. And from here, I'm just going to do the same. Make sure the crochet hook goes underneath the loose yarn. Grab, pull through, yarn over, and repeat this for a few more stitches. And after a few stitches, I just like to go ahead and let go of this because I know it's secure now. And I'm just going to repeat my usual row of half double crochet until I get to the end of the row. At the end of the row, I'm going to chain one and make my way up until the next end of the row, which is basically this edge. What I do is, coming up to the very edge where I did my first row, I'm going to just grab the edge of the black yarn and pass this underneath, because I want to go over with my next few stitches underneath the yarn, right? So just the same thing I did, but this time around I'm going to yarn over, go into the back loop, and as well make sure the yarn, my crochet goes underneath that string of yarn, and I'm going to grab and pull through, and into the next few stitches I'm just going to make sure the stitches go above the string, so that way I also have that already secure, and I don't have to sew in all the loose ends at the end of the panel. All I have to do is cut off the excess yarn. So cut off this excess yarn, and it's flawless. Cut off this excess yarn, and it is flawless. I'm going to repeat this black yarn for 10 rows, and I'll see you guys when I have that complete. I have an update. I just finished my 10 rows of after double crochet with the black yarn. In the video, I did not start with the black yarn, and that is what my pattern is about. So I wanted to start with a color that you guys can actually see the beginning. So now this is going to be the edge of my panel, right? Because again, I started there, but all I'm going to do is just cut off the yarn and make this the edge, and I'm going to reattach my yarn to the side. But whatever color, if yours is correct and you're using the right method, which I think you are, all you're going to do is just continue to do an additional 5 rows. So you're going to switch to the other yarn, and you're going to do 5 rows. I am going to switch to black when I switch to this point, because obviously I did say I was going to do 10 rows for each. So when I switch to the side, I will have to change to a black yarn, just because right after this color it is a black yarn. I hope you guys understand what I mean. But yeah, I'm just going to cut off the yarn now, and I'm going to repeat that for 5. And then for the other 5 rows, we are going to do something a little bit different, but you guys will see later when it's complete. So I just finished my 5 rows of the black yarn, and this is literally what the shoulder measurement is going to be. So basically from one edge of your neck to your shoulder, this is the length. And now we are going to start the actual neck piece, and to do that we are going to add an additional 5 with the black yarn, because we need a total of 10. But in this case we are going to increase, which means we are going to chain 5. So right after your 5th row, which is the last row, you're going to go ahead and chain an additional 5. So this 5 is going to be the amount of stitches, and as always I like to chain an extra one just so I have a turning chain. From there on you're going to turn, because we're going to go back to the opposite side of the panel. So to do that you're going to yarn over, and just the way we started, you're going to go into the second chain with your after double crochet, your first after double crochet stitch, and right after you're going to go into the next 4 chains with one after double crochet, and at the end you should have a total of 5. And if you want to make this a bit longer, obviously you can, which means you're just going to chain more chain instead of just chaining 5. And right there I just finished my 5 after double crochet into the chains, which means right after I'm going to go into the working panel and just go into the back loop of each stitch with 1 after double crochet until I get to the very end. Hey guys, so I wanted to show you guys what the panel looks like right before I switch back to the opposite, to a different color. So you should have something like this. This is the increase panel that goes to the neck. So from here on, you're just going to grab your second yarn and switch to that color. And you're going to do that for a total of 10 rows if you're making a size extra small to small. If you're making a size medium to large like I am, you're going to do a total of 15 rows with this yarn. And if you're making a size bigger than large, you're going to do a total of 20. So you're going to just repeat that, switch the yarn the same way I showed you guys how to, and you're going to do your 10 or 15 or 20 rows that you need to get done. Hey guys, so after your last row of the increase, remember I did 5 with the black, and with this color I did about 15, and then I went ahead and did an additional 5 just so I can balance this side. So what we're going to do now is we're going to decrease, because remember we increased, we want to decrease to get to the same length. So you're going to finish off your last 5 rows with a double crochet. And from here on, you're going to chain 1 and turn. Just the same thing we've been doing. You're going to work your way up until you have your last 5 stitches. So into the first double crochet, after double crochet, you're going to go with your after double crochet stitch and just work your way all the way up. And I'll see you guys at the very top. So right here, I'm coming to the very end of the row. So just the same way I had at 5, I'm going to make sure I stop right before the last 5. All you can do also is also bend this a little so you can see if it aligns with the increase we did. So right from there, we're going to repeat the same pattern because we're not decreasing, we're just going to skip the last 5 stitches. So you're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn, and from here on you're going to go into this very first half double crochet with your half double crochet stitch, and basically repeat 1 half double crochet until you get to the very end of the row. And this is what I'm going to do. So the same amount of rows I did for this side is the same amount of rows I am going to do for the opposite side, and then at that point the panel should be complete. Hey guys, so this is what your panel should look like. I just finished my front panel, and for the back panel you're going to just go ahead and repeat the same exact step to get that done. So you're going to just obviously count the way you actually switched from one yarn to the other yarn, because you want to make sure you use the same method as well, so you can balance the same color as much as the lengthwise. It also has to be with the same color palette as well. So I'm just going to repeat the same method for my back panel, and I'll see you guys when I have both panel complete. But for now, this is what it looks like. And of course, maybe yours might look different depending on the size you're making. And like I mentioned, if you're making the size smaller, you don't have to do 15 rows on this side. You can just do 10. And if you're making a size bigger than large, you're going to just do 20, just because of the way the pattern is worked. But I'm going to repeat the same step, and I'll see you guys when I have my second panel complete. Yesterday I did manage to finish the back panel, which means now I have both of the panel complete, and all I have to do is literally single crochet these two together. You can use a slip stitch, you can use a needle, whatever you want to use that. So I'm going to single crochet the shoulders together, and I'm going to put this on and decide how wide I want the armpit area to be. Alright, so that's what I'm gonna do. All you have to do to get that done, you're going to remember we have the neck panel, right? So you're just going to align both of the neck panel together, and you should have the same length, obviously. And right from there where we did the decrease, you're just going to attach your yarn and single crochet or slip stitch, or use a needle both ends together. So I'm gonna do that and I'll come back and show you guys what the next step is. So I just finished single crocheting one side, and I wanted to show you guys how you can just keep changing the color while you're slip stitching or single crocheting your two panels together. I'm going to show you guys the method that I use. So you can see that right there I use black, and then I switched to the other color and then back to the black while I was single crocheting together. So to do that, you're just going to turn your yarn, your panels, sorry, and I'm still using my 3mm for this method. You're going to use your 3mm to get this done as well. So for the first one, depending on where you're starting, if you're starting from this side or this side, you're just going to grab the yarn, the color that is on the side you're starting from. To the side, I am going to start from the very edge, which means I'm going to grab my black yarn, and I'm going to just attach this to both panels with a secure knot. So I'm going to go right into that very first space on the panel, and I'm going to go on the opposite panel as well and make a secure knot. And I usually go back and make some extra knots just to make sure this is super secure. Again, and now you're going to single crochet your way or slip stitch your way, whatever is comfortable for you to do. I'm just going to grab my crochet hook. I know it's black, so forgive me if you cannot see, but I'm just going to explain, so please listen. So you're just going to go into that very two panel. You're going to go in both panels and you're going to grab the yarn, and I usually like to just chain one to get started, and from there I'm just going to make my way into the next available space. So you're not going into one stitch. You can really see your stitches on this part of the panel. So all you're going to do is go into the next available space on one panel, and you're going to go into the next available space on the opposite panel. You're going to grab the yarn, pull through, and yarn over and pull through again. Of course, you can use a slip stitch for this again. I already mentioned that, but you're just going to make your way with one single crochet, just the way you usually just attach both panels together. Honestly, there is nothing special about what I'm doing. So I'm just going to make my way up until I get to this part. You want to make sure you're also aligning both panels as you go, because you wouldn't want this side to fall on this. You want to make sure it's even, like each row falls with each row on the opposite panel as well. So right here I have come to the end of the black yarn. So what you're going to do in that case is you're going to grab your opposite yarn, and this is what you're going to use for the next few stitches. What I like to do is I'm going to go back into that last black space, and I'm going to grab the yarn with the black, and when I have two loops, I hope you guys can see that I have two loops on there. I'm going to grab the second yarn and I'm going to change color. I'm actually using the same change color method. So I'm just going to grab that and pull through. So now I have the second yarn on my crochet hook. So what I will do with the rest of the yarn is I have this loose end on the new yarn and I have this on the black yarn. So the black yarn, you're not cutting this off, by the way. This is still attached to your working yarn, so you guys can see, but we are going to just go ahead and grab the loose yarn on this one we just attached and the black yarn together. So you're going to grab that and grab it with your second hand, because you want to make sure you are going above or underneath that. I don't even know what I'm doing, but now we're going to make our way to the second color, right? So you're going to go into this first available space on the second color. Make sure you do the same thing on the opposite panel, and I like to just grab these two yarn to make sure my stitch is secure, and I'm going to grab my working yarn now and pull that through. So when I have two loops, I'm just going to single crochet that. Again, I'm going to go into the next available space and the next available space on the back panel. Make sure my crochet hook goes underneath these two yarn. Grab the working yarn, yarn over and pull through. Again, go into the next available space on the panel, on both panels. Make sure your crochet hook goes underneath these two yarn. Grab your working yarn yarn over and pull through. And this is what you're going to do until you get to the end of the second color. I mean, still working on this second color. I don't have enough left of this yarn, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to abandon this, but I'm still going to be working with the black yarn, and I'm just going to just do the same thing. The only thing is I'm not single crocheting my way with this color. It's just going to be the black yarn for the next few stitches. And when I get to that very last stitch, last available space with the second yarn, all you're going to do is you're going to go back into that same space, grab the working yarn at the point. At this point, you're going to have two loops. You're going to drop this working yarn and you're going to switch back to the next working yarn, right? So what I do is I'm just going to cut this because I know the next panel is going to be black. But if you still have one more of this color, you don't have to cut the yarn. You're just going to do the same method we used with the black yarn. So I'm just going to cut this off. And now the black yarn is my working yarn and this is just a loose end, right? So what you're going to do is you're still going to go over the loose end with your stitches. So now that you have two loops, you're going to grab the new working yarn and you're going to yarn over and pull through. And I just like to use this loose end to make sure my stitch is tight. So from there on, I'm just going to make my way up until the edge with my black yarn, but still going over the loose end with the stitches, the single crochet stitches. So you're just going to repeat this until you get to the very end. I'm coming to the very edge. I'm going to go ahead and go upwards with my single crochet stitches because you want to close this gap around the neck. So all you're going to do is you're just going to go into the next 5 stitches that just makes up the neckline with one single crochet or one slip stitch or whatever stitch you're using to attach both of these two panels together. Now that you have this, all you're going to do is you can put this on to see, or you can use your armpit hole measurement that we did take at the very beginning of this video. You're going to just divide that measurement by 2, and whatever measurement you get is what you're going to use to mark this area of your panel, right? So if in my case I'm going to use mine for example, I think I will eventually go for 8 inches, which means 16, right? 16 divided by 2 will be 8. So I'm going to take a measurement on both sides of the panel from the upper part downwards, 8 inches, and whatever length I have left is what I'm going to single crochet together, because you want to make sure at the end that you have an opening right here for your sleeve, for your arm to go through actually, so we can actually do a sleeve as well. So do that and I'll see you guys when it's complete. You should have something like this, so you have an opening right there and the neck. So you're just going to turn this over because now we are going to do the lower part of this pattern. But so far we have this cutie and I like the color, guys. So now you need to decide what color you're going to use for the edging. I am going to use black because I feel like, why not? I am going to use black for my edging, but you can choose whatever color you want to use. So let's go to the table now and get started with the edging. So to get started with the lower part, you are going to grab your desired color and you're going to attach this to one end of the panel. So whatever end you want to attach this, just go ahead and do that with a secure knot. After the attachment, we are going to go around the panel with a after hook crochet stitch. So what I like to do, again, I know this is black, so bear with me. What I like to do is I'm just going to go into that very first stitch and I'm going to grab the yarn and pull through, and from here on I'm going to chain 1, and right into that same stitch again I'm going to go with my first after hook crochet stitch. And that is honestly my first stitch, and from here on all you're going to do is make your way with one half double crochet into every available space around the edge of these two panels, around the edge of your sweater at this point. So I cannot tell you how much you need to do for each size, because again, you should just actually go into every available space. You want to make sure there is no gap in between the stitches, but at the same time you are not inserting two stitch into one available space, because then you will be increasing, and that is not what we're going for. So I'm just going to repeat one half double crochet like this around the panel. So right here I just finished my first row. We are going to go ahead and repeat the same method we used for the back and the front panel, which is basically half double crochet in the back loop. So, and I'm just going to find my first stitch. So you're going to make your way up until your very first stitch. You can use a stitch marker to mark that stitch, honestly, if it's easy for you. You're going to find your very first stitch and you're going to slip stitch right into that very first stitch. So after slip stitching into that stitch, you're going to go ahead and chain one and turn, because we're going to work our way up until the opposite part. We're doing the same exact pattern, guys. The only difference is this panel is longer and we're doing this in the horizontal way. So after chaining one and turn, you're going to go into that very same space with your first half double crochet stitch, and into the next you're going to go with a half double crochet, but you're going into the back loop, guys. The same thing we did for the panel, the front and the back panel, is what we are doing for the edging. You're just going to go into that back loop with one half double crochet from each of the stitches from the previous row, all over again, and this is what you're going to repeat until you have your desired length. And I'll see you guys when I have mine complete. Hey guys, so we are almost complete. I did a total of 12 rows for my desired length, because I do want this to be a cropped sweater and not too long, so I think the length is perfect. The only thing I have to do now is do the same exact thing that I did at the very bottom around the sleeve, and I think I'm going to do a total of 12 rows as well, just so I can balance the edge of the sweater. Because this is a black yarn and I already showed you guys how to get this done, I do not have to go to the table. So I'm just going to get this done and I'll see you guys with the final look, because so I just finished the sweater. I ended up doing 4 on each of the sleeve because I ran out of yarn, so I don't have a lot of options. But let me put this on so we can see how it looks exactly how it looks. So the sweater is complete. I have this on with a black short. I think if I had like a beige under pant or skirt, that would have been so pretty. But this is what the sweater turned out to be. I absolutely love this. I love this so much, and I also love the fact that this color just falls on the neck and it goes all the way up. So it's winter, you want to make sure you're protecting your neck from the cold, because you don't want to get sick. I don't want you guys to get sick. So I also love it. I'm not a big fan of turtleneck because it gets all the way here and it's so uncomfortable. So I love the fact that this just stops right where it should be. I love it. This is how it looks from the back. Super cute. I also want to mention that the length is obviously optional. You can make this as long as you want it, or you can make this as short as you want. You can also make this as a dress. Honestly, you can do so if you want to. Let me know if you guys want to see a tutorial on that. I also love the sleeve, and I think doing 4 rows around the sleeve was also perfect, because then it's not too long and I can also wear the jacket on top and be comfortable and not thinking I'm too warm, because sometimes, with wool you might get too hot. I know you're trying to keep yourself warm, but it might get too hot along the way. So I love the fact that the sleeve it's just perfect. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys want to see next. If you have any video suggestions or any video requests, let me know down below, and I'll leave all the details down in the description box below. So if you have any questions as well, feel free to let me know and I'll make time to answer your questions. I'll see you guys in my next video, guys. Bye bye.